June 1988 saw Lloydminster looking for a way to welcome the wayfarer.
Commercials such as this one have been flooding the market recently, all vying for those precious tourist dollars. And Lloydminster is no exception. A recent city council meeting announced a $300,000 grant from Travel Alberta to be pumped into Midwest tourism. In a recent unofficial survey held in Lloydminster at various tourism-related businesses, the two recommended attractions were the Bud Miller and Weaver Parks. But what about Lloydminster's real claim to fame, being Canada's only border city? A Tourism Action Committee is to meet at the beginning of June in order to figure out how best to distribute tourism grant money from the provinces. Lloydminster does have the resources to become a major tourist attraction on its own, but unless things change, will always be just a stopover. Karina Fairbrother, Broadcast Centre News.
In December 1990, we report on a cash prize for the best border marker design.
Before Council on Monday, a news conference was held to announce the city would be giving out some money. The city of Lloydminster wants to do some more bragging about its border to attract more tourists. A contest is being held to find a border marker that will stand at Civic Square. The city and the Lloydminster Tourism and Convention Authority will hand out $500 to the person or group of people who come up with an idea by January 31st. And then a task force in charge of the project will choose a winner.
We don't really know whether it's, depending on what it is, we doubt very much it would be ready for this tourist season, but
the city hasn't set a budget for this project. The task force doesn't want that to get in the way of anyone's ideas. Krista Polishi, NewsHour.
By May of 1991, a design had been chosen and the project was revealed to the public.
This is what it should look like. The concept for the border marker could change, but not in any big way. There will be an oil derrick on one side and a grain elevator on the other. The marker will stretch over Highway 16 at the intersection of Highway 17. Although the meridian has traditionally been the official border, the arch over the Yellowhead would get more exposure. 3 different entries from the contest were combined to come up with the idea. The funding for this will come from the city and an Alberta grant.
There's a program called Alberta CTAP. It's funding from Alberta Lotteries. CTAP stands for Community Tourism Assistance Program, and they will match funds 75-25. That is, we come up with 25%, they'll give the other 75%.
The city has allocated $50,000 towards the project. It hopes to receive about $100,000 in grants. Now, before anything else is done, a few steps must be taken.
It will have to be quite high off the ground, and it will have to be wind resistant, weather resistant, and that will be the next step.
Alberta Transportation also has to okay the idea. Council has passed the motion and they like it, but what do the people on the streets of Lloydminster think?
Well, if it's as impressive as it looks in the diagram, yeah, sure. Go for it.
It looks nice, but it's a lot of money for us to pay again, taxpayers. Eh?
Oh yeah, for a border town, I think they should have something like that. Yeah.
Soon when people drive through Lloydminster, they will see the marker right here. The city hopes the arch will be finished by this time next year. It won't be a giant egg or a turtle or even a pierogi, but officials hope it will remind people to come back to Canada's border city. Krista Polishi, NewsHour.
A year later, in August of 1992, we were introduced to a whole new and totally distinctive design.
The Alberta-Saskatchewan border has long been part of Lloydminster's history. Over the years, a number of projects have been undertaken to mark the fact, from specialized sidewalk tiles in the downtown core to a pair of bright yellow culverts that at one time straddled Highway 16. However, the culverts were taken down in the mid-1980s when the highway was widened, and they now reside in a field. And the most recent proposal, introduced a year ago, featured a grain elevator and an oil derrick spanning the roadway. Now that idea has been dropped and a new one developed that will become the focal point of Lloydminster's Civic Square plan.
If you look at communities like St. Louis that have the arch, or San Francisco with the Golden Gate Bridge, they have distinctive features, and we now will be able to have something very distinctive, prominent. The tourist will notice it, and really mark Lloydminster as a feature.
The distinctive feature is 5 100-foot-tall steel markers that will create a curtain of light when lit up at night. As well, there will be a promenade area that will document the city's long history. Reaction to the design unveiling was mixed, with many showing a favorable response and a few questioning the project's feasibility.
The idea is nice, but I'm not sure if it's going to work because I could see people rush by on the highway and say, oh, wonder what that was.
With a price tag of $390,000, part of the money will come from a city reserve already in place and the remainder from government funding that could soon run out.
The communities that have applied through the Alberta government for CTAP funding have 5 years in which to expend those dollars, and we are now in our 5th year. And so as of this December, if we have not got a project underway that will use those funds, we will lose those back to the provincial coffers.
The project will now go to council for tendering before heading into construction. Michael Higgins, NewsHour.
Stay tuned when the seeds of dissension begin to sprout when we return to the border markers, a retrospective.